All right, let's get started. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. Today's webinar is going to be a great one. We are going to be talking about the Mondelēz formula for optimizing marketing creative. Before we get started, let's take care of a couple of quick housekeeping items. First, this webinar event is being live captioned by 3Play Media. So to access those captions, click on the closed caption button in the Zoom dashboard at the bottom of your screen. And second, we will leave time at the end of today's webinar for questions. So feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A box, also located in the Zoom dashboard at the bottom of your screen. We expect to wrap up in about 30 minutes and leave plenty of time for Q&A. All right, thanks for joining us today. My name is Bridget Ling. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing at Razor. Razor is a marketing technology company based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And Razor is home to CellCheck, a creative optimization tool that leverages human vision AI and behavioral science to increase in-store and online shopper conversion. And we are so fortunate to be working with Mondelēz, home of many, many brands we all keep in our pantries at home. As most of us joining today know, marketing organizations are being asked to do more with less, and Mondelēz is no exception. So how does a brand like Mondelēz make that happen? Well, they turn to science, particularly behavioral science. And we're going to talk today about how this is possible through some real-world experiences. So let's introduce our presenters for today. First, we are joined by Tara Humenga, Global Shopper Experience Lead at Mondelēz International. Tara is responsible for the overall global strategy and implementation of point-of-sale display to drive shopper conversion. She is focused on driving excellence across three strategic pillars: shopper conversion, sustainability and efficiency, and enabling best-in-class behaviors and results for Mondelēz around the world. Thank you for joining us, Tara. And I'd like to introduce Lynn Neal, Razor's Global Practice Officer. Prior to Razor, Lynn spent 33 years at Procter & Gamble, leading their behavioral science activation for P&G brands and retailers. As Global Practice Officer at Razor, Lynn leads the CellCheck division, applying behavioral science on behalf of our global clients. All right, let's dive in. Tara, I'll hand it over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Bridget. It's a pleasure to be here. And just to give a little bit more about myself. So obviously I'm Tara from Mondelēz. For those of you who aren't as familiar with Mondelēz, I think you will be when I tell you a little bit more about us, but you probably have Mondelēz products in your household. So Mondelēz owns Oreo, Ritz, Triscuit, Cadbury, Toblerone, Milka, depending on where you're calling in from around the world. I'm sure you either have the brands in your house or have enjoyed them at some time. And as Bridget said, I lead on global shopper experience. I sit on what is called our Global Sales Center of Excellence and help to lead shopper experience with the teams all around the world. And I'm really excited to share with you guys today a little bit more about our journey at Mondelēz. And excited to be with you, Lynn.
Oh, well, thank you, Tara. I'm Lynn Neal. I'm the Global Practice Officer at CellCheck. And I got to say, Tara, as you and I jumped into this project, I realized just how lucky you are.
Lucky I am.
Of course,
I'm
right?
not lucky.
You have a near bottomless budget, money that you
Right.
can't, even figure out ways to spend. And all of your in-store metrics are so easy to achieve, right?
So just to be clear, I have a very limited budget and a lot of difficulty accomplishing the metrics, especially from a global perspective across the entire world.
Yeah, of course, it's a challenge that Tara has, and it's one that I think you guys in the audience share as well. There's not money raining from the skies. You probably have same or less budget than you had last year, but I'm sure that the metrics you have are expecting you to increase it. So the only way that happens is if we get more efficient with our spend. If we make a dollar this year work harder than last year. And there are limited opportunities to do that, but there's one that might be right under our nose. And this study from Google really drives that home. You think about all the time we spend on our placement of advertising or where it's going to show up. But what Google determined was that 70% of a campaign's success is determined by the quality of the creative. It's how effective the campaign is from just a core creative standpoint. Guys, this is great news for all of us. This is in our control. Think about in your own business. What if you could take the great strategies you have, the outstanding creative capabilities you have, whether internally or from your agencies, and just have that work perform 10, 15, 30% better? Well, that is the journey that Tara is leading at Mondelēz right now.
Yeah, and why it's so important to us is if you think about those brands that I listed at the beginning, we operate in over 100, I think actually over 120 countries around the world. We spend hundreds of millions of dollars on in-store creative and in-store display. So it is really critical that we get it right. It's a huge part of our marketing investment, and it really is the last moment of truth. So if you think about the stats on the screen, I'm sure you've seen a similar one before. I've seen a few over the years. Some say 60, some say 80. Quite frankly, it really doesn't matter. If it's somewhere in the middle, 70% of purchase decisions are open to be influenced in store and online. That is massive. So that last moment of truth is huge for us, particularly in our categories. Snacking, for those of you who work in it or who are familiar with it, is large, or who just go grocery shopping and end up buying more than you intended to. It's largely unplanned and impulsive. So 54% of snacking purchases are made from secondary displays. That is a huge opportunity. So this is why it's a huge focus area for us as we think about how do we really optimize this part of the Mondelēz world. So what I'm going to share with you a little bit today is about our journey and some of the kind of key elements of our framework. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about kind of what we do and how we get the teams on board and excited, and what are the types of tools that we use. We're going to talk quite a bit about measurement, and really that's the heart of this, is how do we measure and make sure that we're improving, and how is that becoming a really important of our business, important part of our business rather. And then thirdly, I'm going to share with you a little bit about how it's going. And we've been on this journey for quite a while, but I'd say over the last year, we've really stepped up our efforts. And I'm going to share with you a little bit about our progress so far. But really where we started with this is, if we think about why this is so important, it's really important for us, again, for those big global brands that I mentioned, for us to have these distinctive brand experiences. And for you to be able to have that Oreo brand experience every time you encounter the brand. And for most of us, a lot of the time that we encounter the brand is in store. So it's very important for us to try to replicate those experiences at every single touch point that we have. So this is kind of what we're anchoring to, is that core experience. But as you can see on the screen, there are several examples in our world, and maybe you have the same challenge in your world, where we're just not nailing it. I mean, we have examples all around the world where it's like, I can't even tell that that is the Oreo brand on the left side of the screen. The color is wrong. There's a promotion layered on. We've got footballs, soccer balls, depending on where you're from in the world. We've got suitcases, and there's so much potential in what this could have been. This is a prime location. Looks like it's in a Walmart, but a prime location where we have a huge opportunity to connect with the shopper and engage them in an incremental purchase. And if I can be my own worst critic, we're miserably failing. We are. And we have several examples from this all around the world across different brands. And it's not for lack of people trying to do the right thing, but it's just being clear about knowing what is the right thing to do and quantifying it and really going after what we think matters. I mean, I could go on about the right side as well, but there's probably a few good things working about this. But at the end of the day, without getting close up to this display, you can't even tell what brand it is. So it's kind of a clever coffee cup. There's probably something in there, but we're just missing the mark. And our opportunity is to really hit the mark more often than not. So if I think about the journey that we've been on, for us, it's really about, this evolution. And marketing teams all around the world. We have marketing teams in every one of those 100 countries that we operate in. And these are discussions, and there's discussions that happen, campaigns that get decided on, new displays that get designed on a daily basis. And how do we get our arms around that? Not because we need to control it all, but because, again, we're focused on making the most of that spend and converting as many shoppers as possible. And what we've tried to do is put some frameworks and systems and tools in place to help move from these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of discussions and meetings and subjective opinions that happen on a daily basis to really moving us into how do we leverage some fact-based measures and the tools to support them to really help us move the needle and get a lot better at activating in store. So one of the first things that we did was actually develop the Mondelēz 3 C's. And it's quite straightforward when you think about it. And of course, we've got some clever little cookies and crackers to go along with it, just to make it appropriate for us. But really for us, if we're doing a great job every time, that means we are capturing the attention, we are connecting with the brand, and we are convincing the shopper to purchase our product at that moment in time. So with that, I'm actually going to pass back to Lynn, who's going to take you through not just what these mean, but a little bit of the behavioral science that goes behind them.
Great. Thanks, Tara. And that was important. As Tara and I were talking this opportunity here, it's easy for folks in her organization to think that the 3 C's are just a clever alliteration, but there's so much more behind it. The 3 C's are actually built on the behavioral science of how we all first notice, recognize, and engage with performance marketing execution. So as Tara and I were talking here, he said, let's pull this curtain back a little bit and share some of this behavioral science at a very foundational level. And you can see what Mondelēz is building on day in, day out. Now, everyone in the audience has sort of a different a level setting of what behavioral science means. And just to kind of give us all the similar nomenclature, a lot of our thinking is built off of the work of Daniel Kahneman and his team. And I love this quote. He's saying, mental effort relatively rare. Most of the time we just coast. Kahneman and his team were really well known and got a Nobel Prize in 2002 for their work in this space. And they identified that our brains work in 2 distinct ways. The first way is system 1. That's our ready, recall, easy access based on habits, conditions, familiarity. It's kind of our good enough, quick enough judgment, real easy and fast. The second way our brain works in our human operating system is on system 2, and that is the slow and deliberate method. You can think about that as like when you're taking a college exam. Think about how you felt physically after you came out of that 2-hour exam. You were exhausted, right? Well, that exhaustion is real. Our brain's only 2% of our body weight, but can consume up to 20% of our energy. So without us even knowing it, our human operating system is pushing us to operate in system 1 to conserve energy. If we had to operate in system 2, we'd be exhausted before lunchtime. What Kahneman and his team determined was that up to 95% of the decisions we as humans around the world are making day in and day out are happening in this system 1 mindset. So now it's easy for me to describe it to you and have you guys kind of head nod a little bit. It's so much better when you can experience it. So in this webinar, you're actually going to have an audience experience here. You don't need to come off mute, but I am going to ask you in your area, especially if you don't have folks around, or even if you do have people around, I want you to play along. What you're going to see is I'm going to flash up some words in pretty rapid succession. Now, each word is going to be a specific color. When you see the word flash up on screen, I don't want you to say the word, but I do want you to say the color of the word. So do it real. Do it in your chair and try to say the word as fast as you can. Now, Bridget, I'm going to have you be our one-person test group right here that folks can hear. But I'd love for you to come off mute. And when you see a word pop up, like if you see the word cat and it's in blue, I want you to shout out blue. Are you ready for me?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Going to be pretty fast.
Blue, red, green, red, yellow, blue.
Excellent. Here we go. Let's roll through them again.
Red, blue, yellow, blue, green, red.
Awesome. You're on a roll, Bridget. Here you go.
Yellow, green, red, green, blue, red.
You did pretty good on that last one. But it was a lot harder, wasn't it? You could tell that there were just these pregnant pauses going on. So let's break this down and talk about what's happening right here. Thank you, Bridget, for playing along. And hopefully you guys, from each of your computers, were able to experience that as well. What you're seeing over on the left is called a neutral condition. Throughout your life, you've never had the word cat associated with the color blue. So when you're going through this list, your system 1 processor, your fast, quick processor says, this is pretty easy. Blue, red, green, red, yellow, blue. There's no association there. The middle column is called a consistent condition. If we had a stopwatch on you, you'd be just a couple of microseconds faster. There's a direct matchup, red, blue, green, red, all right? Third column, this is our problem column. This is called an inconsistent condition. Without you guys really cognitively thinking about it, your whole lives, you've been taught that when you see those 5 letters together, Green, you picture the color green. You say the color green. So when I start flashing that list up, just like Bridget had the challenge, and you guys had the challenge, your system 1 processor goes, oh, I got this. Say green. Just say it. But then system 2 kicks in and says, that's not my task. I got to think about this. And every one of these, as you go back and through them, as you go on system 1, system 2, system 1, system 2. Hey, Bridget, I'm going to put you the spot on again. How did it feel going through that third column?
Yeah, it was definitely tripped me up a bit. I did. I wanted to say the word and not the color.
Yeah, it feels a little awkward and it's unnatural, and you don't quite know why, because it ought to be a pretty easy task. Well, why is this important to all of us on this call today? Guys, this is your shopper. It's my shopper trying to navigate a category that isn't organized by their purchase decision tree. It's them looking at a promotional end cap and they don't understand the purchase requirement. It's them looking at any of our performance marketing creative and the communication hierarchy is out of sorts. So their eyes are having to dance around. And it becomes hard for system 1 to process and difficult for them to make a decision. That's why we work in the system 1 mindset when we're looking at optimizing creative. We're trying to make sure we leverage behavioral science so that it works as hard as possible to recognize the system 1 nature of the human brain. And we break that down into these Mondelēz 3 C's. And we're going to just share a little bit of behind the scenes of what each one of these means. The first one is to capture. And that's really inviting someone into your proposition more than just disruption. You can disrupt with a number of things. But what capture means is think of it more of an invitation, almost like you hear your name across the room in a crowded party. You're actually drawn to it. There are a number of ways to do that. I'll just call out 3 quick examples here. One of the things that we will call out is that scale does help. Now it helps on one reason that you think is obvious. You're just more likely to see it because it's big. We've got this big blue block of color in the Chips Ahoy. But what it also does is it sends a signal to the shopper's brain that in the context of this environment, this matters more, that the retailer has given it space, that they ought to pay attention to it. It's like having a focal point within the entire store. Now, that said, the focal point has to work well to set up the proposition. So capture works hardest when someone can look at it in an instant and then kind of recognize what's going on. So not only do you recognize this as Chips Ahoy, but it's clear that it's a birthday context. Halls does a great job here using a little bit of a distinct shape. Even though it's a small profile display, just the fact that they've turned it on angle here helps them make it more interesting, and that also sets up some of the Hall's equities. The last thing I want to mention on capture is the importance of new. We often work with clients who have the ability to say new, but they've made it where it's harder to see, or they've been so concerned about their brand equities that they're not letting it pop. Guys, new is important. We're actually drawn in as humans to things that are new. We release a little dopamine in our body. So if you really want to aid capture while you're legally able to say new, make sure you do. Okay, so capture. Let's make sure we invite someone in. We can do that with different shape, color, just stand out a little bit in the shopping environment. Our second C is connect, and there's 2 versions of connect. What we're going to talk about here is utilizing those brand cues and equities to be identified. And I'll use this slide just as one example. You look at that lovely picture in the background, but can you tell me absolutely what city it is? I bet you can now, just because we use that equity of Big Ben to stand for London. And not only do you recognize London, but all the things that London means to you starts running over you. Those same kind of memories that you had when you think about Big Ben in London are present in our shopper's mind on trying to recognize our brand. So it's important when we're presenting to them in store or online digitally that we leverage our assets, like the dairy milk glass and half pour, like the bold Ritz shape with the serrated edge and the bright red color. And then Milka does a great job with their purple. They also signal the category from afar by actually showing some pictures of the product. So great examples that tie into that. So connecting to the brand, make sure we're leveraging those assets that draw those shopper memories up to the forefront really fast. A second form of connect is to make sure we're telling that message to the shopper, making sure we're telling a clear, single-minded focus to our story that we have. And I'm going to have another little audience participation thing right here. I'm actually going to have you guys do some math. Okay, so this is real math. No need to shout it out, but I really want you to do this in your head. Okay, it's going to move pretty quickly. Here we go. What's 3 plus 9? You got it? What's 24 plus 45? You got it? What's 683 plus 329? What's 5,267 plus 4,791? You get them all? Well, of course you didn't. And I didn't expect you to, but I know exactly what happened in each of your minds at this time. You saw the first one, and you went through it. You added it up and got 12. Then you saw the second one with the double digits, and you got that one as well, and you felt pretty good. I got this nailed. Then that third one showed up with 3 digits, and you probably started. But you're about 2 or 3 seconds in, and then each of you, even though you're looking at this individually, I will tell you that universally across everyone participating in this call, you heard a little voice in your head that says, don't do this. It's not worth it. He's not asking us for the answers. This is going to take work. And by the time I got to the fourth one, you didn't even try at all. So guys, that is the power of your human operating system trying to protect you from wasting energy, because it determined that what I was asking you to do was a waste of energy. You guys didn't do that even when I asked you to. So why is this relevant in retail? Because when we communicate in this way and it's overly complex, it might as well be calculus to the shopper. Take a look at this digital ad on the right. You don't even need to understand the language, but we've got a headline. I've got some words in bold. I got the brand. I've got a signature from the founder. I've got a URL right here. Then I've got a new copy line that makes some testimonial. Then I've got a heritage statement. Then I show a picture of the product, but then I get down to the products themselves, and I'm showing 5 products, not the one that's just listed in the picture. All of this becomes calculus. And think about it. We don't have someone standing there saying, please look at this ad, like I did for the math. Your human operating system says, just move on. Just slide to the right. Okay. So it's important that we tap in and be really simple. I love this execution from Mondelēz and the Oreo brand. And it's not really from what it contains, but it's actually showing the ability of them to curate and leave things out that don't matter. Guys, they are visualizing this partner with Batman so clearly, they don't need a big header that says Oreo is now partnering with the Batman franchise. Okay, it's clear in an instant. They're using assets brilliantly. They're sending a signal that they have a limited edition cookie that's got the Batman profile. They've brilliantly set it up here as being the beacon itself for Batman. And you couldn't get clearer on the participation mechanic. There's a chance to win. All you need to do is buy, solve, and win. Crystal clear in an instant. They don't have to list out all the prizes. They don't have to do all that. Immediately engaging, and the shopper especially knows what the story is and where to go to achieve it. Okay, so on Connect, let's make sure we're telling a really clear message. Have we decided to be single-minded? You ought to have this warning bell go off anytime you're looking at a good execution and anyone starts saying, okay, now can we add? That's when things get a little clunky out there. Our final C is convince. And this is really making sure that we close the sale. And what you're doing at this stage is overcoming any shopper doubt and making sure you are the right product to purchase at that very moment. There are a number of ways to help close the sale, from social proof to great benefit visualization to testimonials, etc. I'll call out just a couple here real quickly. We get asked a lot about the importance of a call to action, and giving the shopper a signal is important, but it doesn't mean that everything needs to end up with a try now with an exclamation point. You've obviously got seasonal relevance with the Cadbury execution over here, but share the love is a call to action, and they've tied it directly with the product on this is the love that you can share right here. Great digital ad from Oreo that really utilizes that focal point about getting the family size and migrates left to right over to the shop now. And then an obvious, emotional bond with the Premier League, and you have an opportunity to win a weekend in their boots. All very clever ways to drive participation and get that close. So a number of ways to get there. Just fundamentally, have you identified the purchase barrier at that moment in time? And is the message you're providing compelling enough to make your product the logical execution? So we wanted to go just a little deeper on the 3 C's here so you could understand the behavioral science behind it and how we apply them. And back over to you, Tara, to tell how that's coming to life at Mondelēz.
Awesome. Thanks, Lynn. Thanks for diving into the three C's. I hope you guys found it helpful just to understand a little bit about how we look at and evaluate creative against them with the help of CellCheck. But I just want to talk to you a little bit about, obviously, this journey that we've been on. Well, we try to make it simple, and I'm going to share with you kind of a three-step process that we use. There is a lot that goes behind it. So I'll try to just give you a little bit of a peek under the tent of what are the tools that we use to help facilitate this process that gets us to great more often than not. So firstly, one of the things that we have done across all of our global brands is we have done in-store brand guidelines. So we're not talking about the just the brand assets or the just the brand book. We're taking it a step further, and we have brand guidelines for all of our global brands. So there really isn't a need to create a new Oreo display in every single market. There might be a need to translate a word or adjust the call to action, but we have brand guidelines. We have measured them and tested them with CellCheck, and then we encourage our teams around the world to use them, if not only for a starting point to get us going, along with the three C's as the design principles. The second thing that we've done is we've actually created a bespoke evaluation tool that allows the marketing teams and their agencies to review the creative before submitting to CellCheck. And really, it's a tool that helps them evaluate it again. Instead of evaluating it based on subjective criteria or what that person feels like that day or how big they think the logo should be, it's an evaluation tool that forces them to answer questions against the three C's and really optimize their creative based on that. And then the third and final step that we use for all of our invest brands and our most important activations is we do submit to CellCheck, not only because it's important for us to measure and understand where we're at today and where we're going to improve for the future, but also because CellCheck helps us improve by not only giving us a score, telling us what we can do to really take it to the next level. So that's the process that we use in a nutshell. And to give you a bit of a sense on how it's going, we've been really pushing this now for probably about 9 months to a year. And we have been out, I think collectively, Lynn, we've been out and done capability training for over 700 Mondelēz employees around the world. We've got engagement, people coming to us, asking us for questions and support and help all of the time. So I think we're well on our way to inspiring and engaging all the right people around the world. They're starting to speak this 3C language, which is amazing.
Right.
From a measurement perspective, people now care about their CellCheck score. So a year ago, I would say 99% of marketers didn't know what CellCheck was. Now they're asking about their CellCheck score, or they're proactively telling me how good their CellCheck score is if they got a good one. We also have a scorecard issued by our CMO with all of our most important creative measures above the line. The only below the line, the thing that has been newly added is CellCheck. So this is going up to the CMO on a monthly basis. And that is also lighting a fire for everyone to make sure that their scores are on there. And our CMO now, when he goes and does a market tour, literally walks around the store and asks people what the CellCheck score of the displays are. So that awareness and that top down is driving a huge amount of just the passion behind the CellCheck score, and the measurement in general, I guess. And then the last thing is we're starting to see it move the needle. So really, we're starting to see our scores go up. Our teams are better educated, and as a result of this, we're just getting better in store, which is super important because that's ultimately the goal that we set out to do. And it will be I will say that it is, but it will be reflected in our business performance ultimately. So yeah, it's really exciting, and I hope that was helpful for you guys and that you learned something or taken something away. So with that, I'll pass back to Lynn.
Well, thanks, Tara. I appreciate you sharing some of the behind the scenes and the progress that you guys are making, and it's a wonderful partnership to see the progress and really to see the results in store. So that's just great news. Hey, Bridget, I'll hand it back over to you in case we have any questions. I know we might be a little tight on time, but for those that can hang on, we can answer any questions that came in.
Yeah, we do. We have a couple questions that have come in, and if there are any others from the group, please drop them into the Q&A right now. The first question, I love the Oreo Batman example. Do you have any other advice for how to avoid the trap of getting too caught up in the campaign and as a result, losing any distinctive brand assets?
Great. I can help out in that one a little bit here. I mean, it all goes back to the power of a really strong creative brief on getting your priorities straight out of the gate. And a lot of times, especially when we're doing a co-branded execution, we want to include everything. And I'll go back to part of the strength of that Batman execution is they found a way for the brands to work together that the shopper could visualize and get really instantly without adding a lot of words to it. From there, it's a matter of managing the complexity of the relationship and any promotional overlay that you have. We got some best in class guidance, and just reach out to us specifically, and we can help you with some more details there.
That's great. Here's another question. What led to Mondelēz adding cell check scores to the CMO scorecard?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll take that one. I mean, it was just a recognition from literally the CMO and the CMO's leadership team that we need to be better in this area. So they came and asked us, like, how do we get better? And we already had the tool, we already had the process, and they said, let us help you. Let us help you drive the awareness and push it up. They think it's super, super, super important. And they really, really, really believe in it. And it just becomes evident, as I mentioned, as they tour around the world and they go in store, that is the one thing that sticks with them, right? And they send us pictures all the time of, hey, I was here and I saw this, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, but they care. They think it's important. And I think it's really great to see that, they're not just caring about the Cannes Lions that we're winning. They're caring about what it looks like and what our shoppers see every single day. So it was driven from them.
That's great. Tara, another question for you.
Yep.
Do you leverage QR codes on your packaging to connect your brand with consumers?
We have in a few examples in different markets around the world for varying different reasons. So I mean, there's not a boilerplate example or learning I can give, but I know that we have for different reasons. We've probably leveraged them more for promotions and like sweepstakes and things like that than we have just in general. But yeah, I know that we have, but I can't give a specific guidance on whether or not, because I think it's very case specific.
Yeah.
That probably wasn't a great answer, but
No, that is. I'll actually tack onto them because we often get asked, "Is our QR codes good or not?" And the question is more complex than that. The key is understand your shopper journey, and for the purchase moment on your below the line activations, is the QR code going to help you make a sale or is it going to knock them off track? So if you have a promotion that might be a little bit complex, a QR code could be a great way for them to engage deeper. Maybe there's a puzzle or something there that lets them unlock a code that gets a discount or whatever that promotion might be. So it's relevant to the purchase moment. If you just want the shopper to understand your brand story in depth, then presenting that at the point of sale on collateral material might be knocking them off track. Think about your own priorities as a shopper. You really want to make your choices right then. As far as packaging goes, Terry hit it right on. If there's a purpose to include it on the package, maybe you have a conservation story that you have. I know Mondelēz is really under the cocoa life and 100% sustainable cocoa. So that might be a depth of information someone wants after they've already picked up their Cadbury part and helps immerse them in the brand, but might not be endemic to the sale at that moment in time.
Sure. Okay. We have two more quick questions. Is there a most important C out of the three?
I'll handle this one, and Terry, you can correct me if I'm wrong. All of them are important in the context, but think about capture as your gateway in. So if you're not getting that initial attention, then you just don't get a chance. One other way to analogy is just think about it like your sales funnel. So capture is a way that you can either create a large sales funnel, or if you're not seen, even if you have a great proposition, it's small. So while they're all important, you've got to get capture right.
All right.
Agreed.
And okay. Go ahead, Tara.
No, that's it.
Okay.
I get asked that question on a weekly basis.
And what about digital store? How do I think about this in the digital space?
Yeah, so what I shared with you today is primarily focused on physical in-store space, although a lot of the tools that we have, like the 3 Cs and the design evaluation tool and all of that, are like channel agnostic. So the principles are the principles when it comes to display, whether it's physical or digital. We have started to do some digital stuff also with cell check, but I don't know, Lynn, if you want to build on that as well.
Yeah, great. I would say just with all of our global partners, whether it's small brands or big global corporations, about 40% of our business is in the digital space. So it's really active, and that includes everything from banner ads to social posts that we'll be able to look at and optimize. Another area we're getting a lot of traction on is or need on is on product detail pages. Just your digital storefront, whether it's on Kroger or Amazon or Tesco. How do we make sure that our brand story is showing up right for each product, and that we're leveraging all of the assets that the retailer makes available? So we have a proprietary process that looks at that and takes the same kind of optimization approach to make those work as hard as possible.
Nice. All right. That's all the questions we have. So thank you, Tara, and thank you, Lynn, for just a really cool presentation today. I love seeing all these in-store activations and the objective measurements. So thanks. It's been a good conversation. Thank you all for joining us today. Reach out to Lynn and Tara directly with any further questions. They'd be happy to have further conversation with you all, and appreciate you being here today. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.